Okay. So cool.
Fasten them to the floor.
Right now, they're be honest. Be honest.
So
This is the beginning.
that's
So
It is.
Good evening, everyone. It is 7:36, so we will call the meeting to order. I welcome the board. I welcome department heads for joining. I appreciate it. The video of this meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube and will also be available on Facebook and posted to the village website. At this time, I'd ask Clerk Saladino to call the roll.
Trustee Augustine?
Here.
Trustee Gale?
Here.
Trustee O'Brien?
Here.
Trustee Peterson?
Here.
Trustee Katinik is absent. Trustee McGee? Absent. President Kukler?
Here. And Trustee Kotinik and Trustee McGee indicated they were unable to attend, but are planning to attend our next meeting, which is the fourth Monday in April. So with that, I would ask Clerk Saladino to have the audience rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand.
Due to state statute, we have to have formalities with our budget. So I'm officially opening the public hearing by stating the village will now conduct the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget public hearing. The budget and today is really the conclusion of a 9-month-long budget development process. The budget will not be considered to be voted on this evening, but will be considered at our next meeting, which again is April 24th. The notice of the public hearing is posted and published according to state statute. Copies of the proposed budget have been available for inspection at the Village Hall, the Grange Public Library, and posted to the village website since March 3rd. The village budget is a living document, and resident input is welcomed throughout the year. If anyone in the audience has any comments regarding the 2023-24 operating and capital improvements budget, please proceed at this time with those comments. Seeing none, and with no further comments, the village budget public hearing is now closed. Final action again on the village budget will be taken at our next meeting, April 24th. So now we are resuming the regular meeting. And first up is the President's report. I'd like to start with sad news, and that is, as many know, the Chicago Fire Department last week lost 2 members in the line of duty. The village board joins with all the neighboring municipalities in recognizing both gentlemen for their bravery and sacrifice. These incredibly sad events remind all residents of the sacrifices that our public safety employees endure. And they do so to ensure our safety. We want to make sure that our men and women understand and know just how much we appreciate their service and how we appreciate their protection day in and day out. So thank you to all the public safety officers and their departments. Following up with that, and better news, police officers Taylor Falls, Laura McDermott, Caitlin Huber, and investigator Candace Castleberry attended a 2-day 2023 Women in Criminal Justice Conference last week. And we appreciate their commitment and everybody in our police department's commitment to continuing education and in furthering their skills. LTAC this week is National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, and we express our gratitude and appreciation to our telecommunicators and all, again, public safety professionals. I did note that there are notice on social media that LTAC is hiring, so if you're or know anybody that may be interested, please contact LTAC for more information. It's springtime, so board and commissions are up for reappointment. The village benefits from the efforts of many talented individuals that serve our boards and commissions. We're thankful for their contributions. It's at this time that I initiate the process of considering appointments and reappointments to the various boards and commissions serving the village. Residents interested in volunteering to serve Grange are invited to submit a letter. It doesn't have to be long, just real short that you're interested, and if appropriate, a resume to myself, and my email's on the webpage, or village manager Jack Knight. And we welcome all people that might be interested. And that same vein, I received an email earlier today regarding the Field of Honor, which was an event that we participated with the Field of Honor group at Gilbert Park 2 years ago. They're again planning to host that event and are looking for veterans and non-veterans that would like to serve on a committee. So if you're interested in serving in that capacity or know anybody that might be interested, please email me and I'll make sure you get in touch with the right groups. This year's Spring Cleanup Day will be held the week of April 24th. During this week, residents are able to place an unlimited amount of household refuse out for collection on the regular garbage day. To participate, residents need to affix one special spring cleanup sticker or 2 regular stickers to items set out for collection. And again, there's more information on that on our website. Earth Day is Saturday, April 22nd. Individuals are encouraged to visit earthday.org for steps they can take to help improve the environment, such as planting trees, reducing plastic consumption, and cleaning up natural areas. On that day, the League of Women Voters of Grange are sponsoring a hike in honor of Earth Day. The hike will be held again on Saturday, April 22nd at 10 until noon at Bemis Woods, located on Wolf Road between 31st and Ogden Avenue. The event is free of charge and open to the public. They're welcoming participants of all ages and families and any other groups, and information is available at league@lagrangearealwv.org. And that concludes the president's report. Do I have one more? One more, and I apologize for that. That's the Arbor Day. I thought I had one on April 28th. Arbor Day is April 28th, but on April 29th, we'll be celebrating. This is the 40th consecutive year that the village is being named Tree City USA and the 9th year of receiving the Growth Award. I will ask Clerk Saladino to read the proclamation into the record and ask for a motion to approve the proclamation, followed by a second.
The Village of LaGrange Proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas the Village of LaGrange is characterized by its stately and tree-lined streets, and whereas the village makes a continual effort to preserve the aesthetic beauty and environmental benefit by appropriate urban forestry planning and reforestation, and whereas the forestry and tree planting program will continue to be integral parts of the services the Village of LaGrange provides to its residents, businesses, and schools, and whereas the Village of LaGrange recognizes the interest in and desire for a healthy urban forest from the entire community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of LaGrange does hereby proclaim Friday, April 28th, 2023, as its official Arbor Day observation, and therefore be it further resolved that Arbor Day shall be marked with an Arbor Day tree planting ceremony on Friday, April 28th, 2023 at St. John's Lutheran Elementary School, recognizing its students' efforts to improve our urban forest.
Thank you, Clerk Saladino. And just to follow up on that, traditionally, we pick one school where we have Public Works comes out and helps plant a tree for Arbor Day. And it's always a great event. Everybody's welcome to attend, which will again be Friday, April 28th. And with that, I would entertain a motion and a second.
I move we approve the proclamation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, trustees. Clerk Saladino, I think just a voice vote for that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. All right, now I think we're ready for the manager's report.
Excellent. Thank you, President Kukler. Hydrant flushing began, the annual program began and is expected to continue until the end of May. This regularly occurring program prolongs the useful life of the system components through exercising valves and purges sediment that is accumulated in the system. This work will occur both day and night, Monday through Friday, depending on the location of the hydrant, traffic patterns, and other factors. Signs will be posted on streets notifying residents where crews will be working in advance of the flushing activities. Residents near recently flushed hydrants may notice a temporary discoloration of the water, which is due to flushed iron and mineral sediments. This can be resolved by simply running the water until it runs clear. Number two for my report would be the rehabilitation of Edgewood Avenue. This important project from 47th Street to the southern border of the village resumed last week. Street surface is planned to be milled, rehabilitated using a full-depth reclamation method, and resurfaced starting this week into the week of the 21st. The village has coordinated these efforts with residents, the hospital, and school bus transportation companies, and will continue to communicate updates through the duration of the project. Efforts are expected to be substantially completed by the end of April. President Kukla, that completes my report.
Thank you, Village Manager Knight. At this time, I would ask for public, well, first, I guess we need to, I better get back to my script. I'm going to ask Clerk Saladino to read the items under the consent portion of the agenda, followed by the items under the current business. However, there are a few changes due to a couple trustees being absent and the need for quorums. So B is going to be removed from the consent agenda and will be under current business. And H and I, those sections which include vouchers to be voted on, the Floon and Kenny legal bills will be removed and addressed in 2 weeks. So with that, I would ask Clerk Saladino to read the items under both the consent and current business.
Matters on the consent agenda will be considered by a single motion and vote because they have already been considered fully by the board at a previous meeting or have been determined to be of a routine nature. Any member of the Board of Trustees may request that an item be moved from the consent agenda to current business for separate consideration. Item A, Agreement, Stormwater Management Plan Update, Engineering Task Order. Item C, an ordinance amending the LaGrange zoning code regarding auto repair uses, allowable uses of detached garages, storefront window coverings, bulk standards for accessory structures, authorized variations, the design review permit process, and definitions. An ordinance amending sections 150.09, 150.16, 150.22, 150.23, 150.28, and 150.30 of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of LaGrange regarding building permits, grading and drainage regulations, local amendments to International Building Code, International Residential Code, International Fire Code, and National Electrical Code. Item D, a resolution requesting closure of LaGrange Road from 47th Street to Burlington Avenue for the annual pet parade. Item E, an ordinance authorizing disposal of property owned by the Village of LaGrange. Item F, minutes of the Village of LaGrange Board of Trustees special meeting Saturday, March 11th, 2023. Item G, Minutes of the Village of LaGrange Board of Trustees regular meeting, Monday, March 13th, 2023. Item H, Consolidated Voucher 230327. And item I, Consolidated Voucher 230410. Current business. This agenda item includes consideration of matters being presented to the Board of Trustees for action. Item A, Agreement, GovHR USA, Finance Director Recruitment and Selection. Item B, Special Event, LaGrange Business Association Carnival. And item C, a resolution waiving bidding and authorization the village manager to award a contract for the purchase of a Ford F-59 truck from Curry Motors, Frankfurt Incorporated.
Thank you, Clerk Saladino. At this time, I would invite anybody to the podium that has comments regarding matters on tonight's agenda. Okay. Trustee Augustine, you can either read that letter now or wait till we present the matter, whichever you prefer. Okay. Anybody else with matters?
Hello?
Yep,
Better.
I think that's better.
Dan Spain, The Elm, 23 West Terrace. I have been in communication. I'm here tonight to discuss the carnival and their request for a permit. And, you know, I've been in discussions. I was on the board for the LaGrange Business Association for the last 2 years. I have two concerns. One, the size and safety, and it's right out in front of my business. We've been going back and forth. I'm just disappointed with the way that the LaGrange Business Association, of which I am no longer on the board, has, presented the facts. And I understand it's a huge fundraiser, and it's their number one money-generating event for the year. And I just, again, have two concerns. One, safety, and then two, a lot of business owners, of which you know, lose money in the first week of the summer. So I'm trying to see if there's another place where it can go in the future. Also, the summer's 13 weeks, so the last 2 years has been extremely difficult. And, to have two large events, they'll tell you that it's a moneymaker for a lot of the businesses. It's actually the opposite, because a lot of people go to either the craft fair or the carnival, and a lot of regulars stay away. So I know that I've lost out on a lot of events. I just got an email the other day. They don't, it's going to be too difficult for them to come from people all over Chicagoland. So just want to, let my thoughts be known, and hoping that there's a discussion that can be made. Happy to have an open conversation with the LaGrange Business Association. I've not, there was a meeting on late February about how other business owners felt, and I was supposed to get some communication regarding that. I had to follow up with the president of the LaGrange Business Association, and it just seems like I'm not, just be forthright. And, there's a lot of businesses that are negatively impacted because of it, and just want to have a conversation about that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Posey. I'm the president of the LaGrange Business Association. We have submitted a permit request for the carnival this year. I'm not sure if you want to, if this is a good time to address the suggestion that was made that our process in evaluating the petition was somehow not transparent or not forthcoming. We did just receive a letter tonight, which I had requested that Brian Fry submit. That individual was part of our forum. So I'm here to answer any questions. I can hold my comments until the permit.
Well, it's kind of up to you. Right now is the time, if you'd like to say anything, that, because there may or may not be questions.
Sure.
If the trustees have any questions, then we would invite you back up to answer those questions, but there may not be any.
Sure. So to summarize the process that the board came to make their decision to submit for a permit request, this began and Nancy Cummings is here, the executive director of the LGBA. She can help me with some dates here. But in 2021, we did not have the carnival in 2020 because of the pandemic. In 2021, Dan Spain raised some concerns about the location of the carnival and the logistical locations of some of the rides. We immediately, the board at that time, immediately considered those concerns and looked into ways to mitigate whatever direct impact that would have. You know, certainly, as we all know, anytime you're going to have a public event, there's going to be a negative impact with the business. When you close LaGrange Road for a pet parade for several hours, that's going to impact all the businesses along LaGrange Road. So as an association, it's our duty to make our public events an advertisement for LaGrange as a whole, but also for our business owners. And so it's a tricky balance that we have to take, and we don't take that responsibility for granted, which is why we really spent a lot of time and effort looking into different potential ways to either move the carnival to another location altogether. And you'll see in the materials that we submitted, we referenced that. That was also provided to all of our membership, including those that attended the late February forum at Palmer Place. And so we looked at a number of different locations. It was 7 different locations that logistically could handle the amount of rides that our community and our kids expect. And we just came to the conclusion at that time, that board, and this was again in 2021, after several months of evaluating the carnival locations, that it just wasn't feasible. Whether, for example, the LaGrange Park District said no, it was a hard no, that they don't want, they can't accommodate a carnival in Gordon Park at that time of year. Because there's programming and it impacts the summer camps that are scheduled there. So there are a number of reasons why that wouldn't work, why other locations just weren't realistic or feasible. And so the next is, okay, are there other things that we can do? Can we move rides away from the front of the Elm? And so we worked with Windy City Amusements to try to make some changes, and we did make some changes. There was also a concern that there wasn't enough parking to support the ongoing events. Special events at the Elm, and so we worked really hard to try to find some new parking. In fact, after years of working with Chase and with AT&T, this year finally we were able to secure additional parking. And so you'll see in the notes that we submitted, we do have an additional, I believe, 75 parking spots that exceed the existing parking, the weekend parking that's there. Day to day. So we've really tried to mitigate the impact for not only just the Elm, but all the other restaurants on Harris. So earlier this year, so the board voted to enter into a contract with Windy City Amusements, and as a result of going through that exercise, the prior LGBA board. In January of this year, we had heard that there was a petition circulating amongst the restaurants and retail on LaGrange Road and on Harris and on Callender that there were some concerns. They were requesting that we move or cancel the carnival altogether. So the executive board spent a lot of time personally reaching out to the individuals that were on the petition once we received that to listen and find out, okay, what are the concerns? Are there things that we could do to be creative thinkers and try to find a solution that works well for everyone? We also met personally with Dan Spain and his event staff to, again, try to find out what are the concerns, what are the underlying concerns, what can we do to mitigate that impact. The concerns that consistently came up were parking, safety, security, logistics, and so we really were trying to work out, and we'll always continue to think about how can we mitigate those impacts. In addition to that, because we wanted to make sure that this was a transparent process, and we wanted to get as much input from the businesses that are directly impacted by these special events to find out, what can we learn? So we had a open forum at Palmer Place. It was very well attended. We were thrilled to have many faces there that normally we don't see at our regular board meetings, and it was a listening session. At that meeting, before it even started, I explained the format and explained that the way that the board wanted to get the feedback, we had board members, including Mr. Fry, sit in small groups. Ms. Augustine was there, as well as Trustee Katenik, and we really just wanted to hear what everyone had to say. There was no intention to have any sort of debate. We just wanted to listen. And so we listened, we compiled, and we stated this at the beginning of the meeting, that our intention was to compile all that feedback that we were receiving, have the executive board and the full board consider all of the information provided. And in addition to that, we announced at our board, we announced that night, we announced at the following board meeting, which would have been in March, that we continue to receive and would continue to receive any additional feedback that wanted to be presented. Our executive board met at the end of March, and our full board met a week later. So that would have been about a week before spring break. And at that time, the board considered all the evidence, or all, I shouldn't say evidence, but all of the facts, all of the statements that had been submitted, considered the feasibility study we did about moving locations, and the board came to a unanimous conclusion that we wanted to keep the carnival at its current location for the same weekend. We are still apparently receiving feedback. I sent out a letter on an e-blast to all of our membership on Friday afternoon, including Mr. Spain, that linked to the feasibility fact sheet and also to the summary of the comments, and said if there's additional feedback, please to reach out to me directly or to Nancy Cummings. So apparently we received something late today. But the board did make, I believe, a very well-reasoned decision after months of receiving as much feedback, gathering as much information as we can. And so even with this additional letter today, I urge the board to approve the permit for this beloved neighborhood event that has been in existence for almost 30 years at that very location. And I welcome any questions if the board has any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Posey. We're not going to do questions right now because we'll wait till the matter's actually presented. Then if the board has any questions, we'll invite you back up.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments on matters on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I then would ask for Clerk Saladino to do a roll call vote on the consent portion of our agenda.
How about I move for acceptance of the consent agenda as presented?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have to make a motion for the consent agenda and second that,
But
and then
minus-
have any conversation. And I know we do have some conversation.
Right.
So you're making a motion?
Yeah, as presented, minus B and minus the
Falloon and Kinney?
Yeah, Falloon and Kinney.
Perfect.
Parts of the invoice.
Perfect. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. And then, board, any questions or comments regarding the as now presented consent agenda? Trustee Peterson.
Yes, I have a question. So I'm reading, and this question is regarding the stormwater management plan update. And I'm reading, these are part of the tasks that Christopher Berg of Engineering will be doing. And one of the tasks will be, will coordinate with the village to determine whether the use of older, lower Illinois State Water Survey Bulletin 70 rainfall that was previously used for the Mars design and the South Basin project, or switch to the current higher Bulletin 75 rainfall. So my question is, what are they talking about?
And I think that question is probably directed to Director
Rick,
Colby.
please.
Thank you, Trustee
And
Peters.
if you could answer, that'd be great.
No problem. A great question, of course. Yeah, so Bulletin 75 was published in 2020. It's how we as engineers reference that storms are becoming more severe. So it's approximately a 13% increase in storms for the defining storm event that we designed to. Mechanically, for the task order, it's asking the question, do you want to use the system that prior design was completed, or do you want to move things into the current system? Our answer is we want to move into the current system, but it's captured there as in the scoping of this study because it's related to resources. But what the bulletin means is engineers have updated their rainfall data to reflect more severe storms that we observe. It's aggregated data for the state by region, and this was updated in 2020, so it's good data to use.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Terrific. And Trustee Augustine, I believe you had a comment or question?
Yes, thank you, President Kukler. I just had, wanted to address item C, which is the, not maybe every single part of it, but one or two specific parts about the ordinance amending the LaGrange zoning code regarding auto repair uses, allowable uses of detached garages, storefront window coverings, bulk standards for accessory structures, authorized variations, that giant paragraph there.
Do you want to remove it from the consent agenda?
No, I
or
just wanted to
comment?
ask, I want to make a comment on, first I wanted to say thanks to Charity and staff for doing all of the work of this area. You know, we ask a lot about updating ordinances and codes, and it's not like, that's a good idea, let's just change it. You know, it takes research and commissions to take a look at some of these things. And we did some really important things here, and it didn't happen all last week. It's happened over a course of many months. And I'm particularly happy to see some progress, in particular on the allowable uses of detached garages, which until this recent review was technically you were only allowed to put your cars in your garage. So bikes would be illegal and shovels. Would you mind just explaining a little bit about what this ordinance has done for people in the village you may be interested in knowing?
Sure, absolutely. So what it does is codifies that the village is allowing detached garages that are accessory to single-family homes to include an occupiable space within them on the second floor that can be used for common uses accessory to single-family homes, such as a home office or a workout room or something along those lines. Additionally, it explicitly allows for the construction of what essentially is a half bath, so that there can be a toilet room in the garage, but precludes any full baths and continues to prohibit garages from being used as dwelling units. So if a homeowner in the future wants to come in and convert their garage or build a garage with these kind of occupiable spaces and with a half bath, they will be required to sign an acknowledgement that they won't be using that garage as a dwelling unit, and will record that against the property. So it provides that additional use of the space, which we've seen much more demand for since COVID, and still provides some additional level of protection for the village to ensure the continued single-family character of our residential neighborhoods.
That was perfect, and I really appreciate the clarification and all the work that this village did to address this and the other things that we did here. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Trustee Gale.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really just had two comments. One, again, on the ordinance updating. Charity, I just want to thank you for all the hard work in going through that. I start walking through all of this and then walking through more of it, and it's it's tough, dry sort of work, but it's important stuff. So thank you for going through and doing all that with the staff. And then for the stormwater management update, well, I'll sort of end where I think we started. I just wanted to say to Rick, just for me, the one task here about identifying interim recommendations and solutions, and we've talked about it. I just make sure you please underline that for our friends at Christopher Burke, and that we'd love to see some of that as soon as we can. So thanks. That's all.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. All right, seeing no other comments on the consent agenda, I would ask Clerk Saladino to do a roll call vote.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
And Trustee Katina and McGee are absent.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you, trustees, for your questions and comments. Moving on to the current business. It starts with me, and that is a little bittersweet. And that is, the first thing up is the agreement with GovHR USA for recruitment services for our finance director recruitment and selection. And I'll read it. This is not our goodbye where we say all great things about Lou Ciparone. He has been a true leader of the village for decades, and he will be missed. But the village will go on, and we hope that he'll be continuing to give us advice along the way, even after his tenure as finance director ends. Long-tenured finance director Lou Ciparone announced his pending retirement in June of this year. Director Ciparone has had a long and distinguished career, having completed over 29 years of service to the village. The finance department provides key internal services to the organization, including leading the budgeting and audit processes, managing village finances, administering transactions, performing financial analysis, and more. Given the critical nature of these services and the challenge of recruiting individuals with the requisite skills, the use of a professional recruitment firm to assist with the placement of the next finance director is recommended. And staff's assessment, and based upon several previously successful recruitments for the village, as well as the reputation within the recruitment industry, GovHR has been identified as the firm best positioned to deliver a well-qualified candidate. GovHR is well-established public sector consulting, temporary staffing, and executive recruitment firm based in Northbrook. The firm has substantial experience with executive recruitments in Chicagoland region and throughout the country. As detailed in the attached proposal, GovHR is proposing services that include developing a position brochure and announcement, direct recruitment efforts, assessment of candidates, conducting background investigations, developing first and second interview questions, and additional consultations. A 1-year guarantee regarding the selection and tenure of the candidate is also offered. Fees for the service total $19,500, plus expenses for advertising, background checks, and consultant travel expenses. Funds for the expense were not budgeted and will come from the general fund reserves. The process is anticipated to take approximately 14 weeks to complete. Given GovHR's unique position within the professional local government recruitment industry and familiarity with the village of LaGrange, staff recommends waiving the request for proposal process and the approval of the professional agreement with GovHR. So at this time, I have to ask, am I allowed to make the motion, or does a trustee need to make the motion? Okay, then I would leave it to a trustee to so move.
A motion to approve?
Second.
Trustee Augustine, Trustee Gale, I appreciate that. And then anybody with questions, comments, thoughts? Trustee Gale.
I'll just share we used GovHR for hiring our current village manager, and I think they were excellent, professional. It went very well. I have, fully support this resolution and retaining them.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. Seeing no other questions or comments, I would ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee Gale?
Aye.
Trustee Augustine?
Aye.
Trustee Katina and McGee are absent.
And that passes.
I apologize. We need.
My vote.
We need the village president.
You need to ask for my vote.
President Kukler?
Aye.
Waiving competitive bidding, this item, as well as the other item pulled from consent, just requires a 2/3 vote.
Thank you very much, and that's why we have our legal counsel up here to make sure we follow all the rules to the letter. So thank you very much, and with that, I can say it passed unanimously. And we can move on to item B, which is the special event LaGrange Business Association Carnival, and that's been referred to Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, President Kukler. Normally, this is one of the easiest things we will do in a meeting. Tonight might be different. Got this letter, maybe I read that later, and just read through this request first. As has been done for many years, the LaGrange Business Association has presented a detailed request for approval of their annual carnival, which is scheduled to commence on June 2nd, 2023. Carnival, as conducted in the past, is to be held the weekend of the Pet Parade, June 2nd through 4th. Consistent with past years, the carnival will be held on Harris Avenue between LaGrange Road and Ashland Avenue and include use of village parking lots 3, 4, and 8 located along Harris Avenue. As in past years, the LGBA has made arrangements with the Costa School for the use of their playground as event parking. Proposed hours of operation are the same as prior years. Requested hours are Friday 5 to 10, Saturday 12 to 10, and Sunday 12 to 9 p.m. The LGBA is requesting that eligible restaurants located immediately adjacent to the carnival area be permitted to sell beer and wine inside their licensed premises, with event attendees being allowed to carry out and consume the drinks in the immediate adjacent area. And there's an attached plan that if anyone's interested in seeing, they can download and take a look at. Village Board approval of this request will include the temporary closure of Harris Avenue from LaGrange Road to Ashland, waiving restrictions on the outdoor display and sale of goods and services in the C1 zoning district, and approving a carnival as a temporary use. Village staff recommends approval of the request for the LGBA carnival, subject to the following conditions. 1, that all licenses, permits, hold harmless, and insurance coverages be obtained to the satisfaction of the village, including that all participating alcohol vendors provide insurance coverage naming the village as additional insured. Number 2, the LGBA representatives notify all affected businesses of the pending event no less than 2 weeks prior to setup. Number 3, that the carnival setup crew will leave an approximate 10-foot travel lane along the south parking lane of Harris Avenue and the west side of Madison Avenue, open for Thursday, June 1st and Friday, June 2nd, to allow for the pickup and drop-off of school children during school hours. And 4, that the organizers schedule a pre-carnival meeting and maintain contact with staff of all related departments in the village to determine specifics of the operation and setup of the event. 5, that the village maintains final approval of site security, parking, and utility plans. And 6, that the village event organizers coordinate refuse, recycling, and other amenities with the village prior to the event. I believe there's going to be some discussion here, and I'll have some things to say, of course, but I motion to approve this request as written.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine and Trustee Gale. You have, I think, a letter that somebody wanted read?
Yes. Just before the meeting, I was handed as Mr. May mentioned, I was handed a letter by Mr. May from Kevin Mulryan, the owner of Max House. And I was asked to read it. So here we go. Village of LaGrange. Max House does not support the LaGrange Carnival's location on Harris. I have had too many problems with customers trying to take liquor to go through my back door, as well as the front. One year, it ended with a physical altercation. Does the village want to pay my invoice for the extra security I must hire? There are other concerns as well, as stated in the notes from the meeting at Palmer's. I also have a problem with the LGBA's disregard for the businesses that disagree with anything they do. The LGBA does what it wants, when it wants. They also, in quotes, pick and choose who they, in quotes, do business with. I pay to be a part of it, but I wonder to myself, for what? Sincerely, Kevin Mulryan.
Thank you for reading that. So we have a motion and a second. Any trustees with any questions or comments? Trustee Augustine.
Yeah, I hope this can be a good discussion. Certainly wish Trustee Kotinek were here tonight. He was with me at the Palmer's meeting where a large amount of businesses, more than I'd seen at even a typical LGBA meeting, were assembled to discuss this issue. I'm a longtime resident, and I love the carnival. I look forward to it every year. My son loves the carnival. I've said it before. It's a great way to kick off summer, and it's well enjoyed. But as a trustee, I'm not here tonight to look at things through those lenses. I'm charged with looking at the issues that support, always looking at the issues that support our residents as well as our businesses. And so this falls into that area. I've been plugged into this issue for a while with the LGBA, and I've seen a lot of different viewpoints. I have read through and printed out the pages and pages of comments that they compiled after the Palmer's meetings with support, neutral, those who weren't in support of, and it's fascinating. I went table to table at the meeting, just not announcing who I was, just listening in to these businesses as they talked about whether they thought that this was a good place for the carnival to be, and whether it was really benefiting the businesses anymore, or was it harming them? And it really, you're on one side or the other for the most part, but there is some folks who will tell you that it's not good for their business. They feel it's good for LaGrange. So it really runs hot and cold. And I was really hoping that this would be resolved before this meeting and we wouldn't have to get into this discussion, but I'm glad to have it. I'm concerned with harming the businesses, and I'm also concerned with making the judgment of whether I know how many businesses are harmed or helped by this. There are plenty of businesses that feel very, very in support of this carnival. It's a very big and important event to what they consider an important weekend of business. So, I'm having a hard time with this issue, and I certainly want to approve the carnival. I think it should happen. It should happen somewhere, and this year I think it needs to happen here. But I'm wondering if there's any room for near future discussion to consider looking at other locations, perhaps to scale it back. Maybe we eliminate some of the events that happen again, and look at other locations. I'm not really sure. I'm hoping there's more discussion on this.
Thank you, Trustee. You're done. Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Any other trustee comments? Okay, Trustee Peterson.
I'm going to direct this question to Wardlaw. Can you tell me what additional security arrangements are made by the police department of LaGrange for this event?
We don't have any vacations that are occurring within the police department due to the manpower needs for the carnival as well as pet parade. So we'll have between 3 and 4 officers working every day at the carnival. And we're hoping to have additional auxiliary officers that will be available to assist our personnel. And that's besides the normal 4 officers working shift. So at any given day, we have 4 to 8 officers working during the carnival.
Did that answer your question, Trustee Peterson?
Helpful? Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Seeing no other questions or comments, I don't believe. Trustee Augustine, back to you.
Yeah. Again, I just want to reiterate, I think this has my vote to go forward this year. But I'd like to offer being a part of discussion for future years. I think it's not put to bed. The LGBA is an amazing group. I'm really proud of what they do for LaGrange, and you know, we couldn't do a lot of things we want to do without them. But you know, without getting into the weeds, I think that there can be more communications, and I hate to see the division because it's such a strong group, and it really is helpful to this village to have them there and to do what they do. And again, I've been part of this. There was nothing to me that seemed like anyone wasn't trying really hard to get to a place of agreement, and it just didn't get there. And hopefully we can at some point. I guess that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Not seeing any other comments or questions, I would ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Moving on to our last item, which was moved from the current or the consent agenda to current business because my vote is required due to quorum issues, and that is a resolution waiving the bidding and authorizing the village manager to award a contract for the purchase of the Ford F-59 truck from Curry Motors Frankfurt Incorporate, which I can read a little more. This is the water truck. It's a critical piece of equipment. It allows the village to repair water mains, water services, and sewers. The expected useful life is 15 years. Based on our mechanics' assessment of needed repairs, as well as the village age being 16 years, truck 74 was recommended to be replaced in 2022. Cooperative purchasing programs from the Northwest Municipal Conference and Sourcewell are generally used to secure contracts for vehicle purchases in order to realize savings of economies of scale. The purchasing contract for this vehicle was no longer available when staff sought to execute the approved purchase of the chassis through Sourcewell. Both cooperatives have been in contact regarding future availability and have indicated that due to vehicle manufacturers being unable to commit to meeting demand, no cooperative purchasing agreements are planned. The proposed replacement of the Ford F-59 chassis is currently only available through pre-order from a commercial Ford dealer. The difference in price between pricing formerly offered through the cooperative and the manufactured retail sticker pricing for a commercial Ford dealer is $1,915. As the overall fabrication lead time for a truck will be 24 months, and given that truck 74 has already passed its useful life, staff recommends approval of the contract with Curry Commercial Ford, which includes body and upfitting costs from Utilmaster. The inclusion of the upfitting in the contract has added advantage of delivering a fully functional vehicle to the village rather than one that needs to be sent out for upfitting under a separate contract. Supply chain shortages and fluctuations in material costs have resulted in vendors being unable to issue fixed pricing. Given the unavailability of purchasing contracts through cooperatives, price volatility, and limited available inventory, The proposed resolution will waive competitive bidding requirements and authorize the village manager to award the contract for the purchase of a Ford F-59 truck with body and upfitting from Curry Motors Frankfurt, Inc. Village staff recommends approval of the resolution waiving the formal bidding process, authorizing the village manager to execute a purchase of a 2023 F-59 commercial chassis, body, and upfitting from Curry Motors Frankfurt, Inc. upon receipt of the replacement vehicle. The vehicle currently serving as Truck 74 will be presented for declaration as surplus and sold at auction. So at this time, I would ask for a motion and a second on this matter.
So I move that we approve the resolution waiving bidding and authorizing the village manager to award that contract.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Any questions, comments regarding this matter? Hearing none, seeing none, I would ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote that includes myself.
Trustee Gale?
Aye.
Trustee Augustine?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
President Kukler?
Aye. And that matter passes unanimously. And that concludes the current business for tonight. At this time, I would ask if there's any public comments with anyone in the audience regarding items that are not on tonight's agenda. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. My name is Peg Moster, and I'm with the League of Women Voters, the Grange area. And I did speak to you several months ago on the award of the RTA grant and our interest and our excitement about it. And I just wanted to take the moment to thank those of you who I have met with already, starting with Charity many, many months ago, and then the village president and our village manager, and now Beth. And I look forward to meeting with the rest of you, and we will be reaching out at some point to hopefully make appointments with you and to discuss further, the issues that we have an interest in regards to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And do you want to talk about it all, the hike that we have with the League of Women Voters?
I'm not the most conversant about it, but it is Earth Day, and I know that there is much on our website that does describe it, and I'd be happy to make sure that each of you get it individually if you would like.
Well, thank you. I know the trustees have it, and hopefully it will be a beautiful day like Sunday was, and I'm sure you'll have a great crowd.
Good weather is all we hope for, right?
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Alan Foreman. I live at 56 7th Avenue, just a golf ball to the east, and I've been a village resident for 35 years. My wife, and many of my neighbors spend a great deal of time walking in the village, especially supporting the local businesses. And I'm increasingly concerned about, maybe a statistic that you can't track, but I'm going to call it near misses. And I define a near miss as being just avoiding being struck by a vehicle while in a crosswalk and the vehicle's making turns here. And my experience is within 100 yards of where we stand now. I spoke with a few different employees with the village. They thought this was a good place to air the concern. I did call the police department. They indicated that they would do an observation on the corner of Harris and LaGrange here. I appreciate that. I do commend the village for having a safety tips sheet on the village website, but frankly, I think 98% of the drivers coming through our village don't pay attention. So with that as background, I have a couple of specific requests and then a plea with you for coaching on how we might have a further dialogue. Right? So the specific requests that I have is first the exits on the north side of the parking garage. And I know from the inside there's signage that says stop pedestrian crossing, but I feel, and I use the walk there all the time, and the walk is adjacent to the walls of the parking deck. I think the simple solution is to put some convex mirrors so drivers and pedestrians can see around blind spots, because I've nearly been hit there on a few occasions. That's one thing on village property. The other thing I would point on village property, and maybe I worry too much, but the vibrant LaGrange sign right in front of the building here, I think is an obstruction to a driver trying to make a right turn onto northbound LaGrange Road from westbound Harris. So, yeah, again, I'm not sure if anybody thought about that or looked at that, but when I walk around and I see that, it's kind of scratch my head. And then finally, the more complex issue and the plea with you is how, if at all, can we have a conversation? I'm guessing IDOT is responsible for signage and signaling at this intersection. But
just to be clear, that'd be the intersection of LaGrange,
LaGrange
and Harris?
Yes, sorry. LaGrange and Harris does not have similar signing to LaGrange and Cossett, right, as you know. So my ultimate request would be, could we have a no turn on red when pedestrians are present at this corner, or maybe traffic studies need to be done about that. But, I have, again, experienced numerous near misses. I've stood and observed on the corner to just kind of try to get some additional data. And there's a lot of, I think, a lot of competition between impatient pedestrians trying to cross the street and impatient drivers trying to make turns. And again, if someone gets hit, an ambulance is called, it's in your records. But near misses would just be, me saying, oh, be careful more often. But I'm seeing it more and more and more, so that's why I raised the topic. So thanks for listening. And again, if you have suggestions on where else I should take this concern, or if you think it's a concern, I'd be happy to have further discussions as you like.
Well, Mr. Foreman, I can assure you that pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, car safety generally is a huge concern with the village. I appreciate you bringing it up. On the way over here, since it was such a beautiful evening, I meant to say it during my president's remarks and failed to. So thank you for bringing that forward. Just as safety is dealt with, I do think you're right, and feel free, whoever can jump in if I'm wrong, that LaGrange is an IDOT road and they control the signage that's permitted. But we can contact them about changes if the departments look at that. So what I would recommend to staff is, I know that they wrote down your comments, that they look at it, and I have it, whether mirrors would be appropriate, exiting the parking garage specifically on the, I'm thinking, you said north, I'm thinking east also.
It's the
I would think southeast.
It would be the north exit. There's entrance and exits right here on the north
on
side.
6th and then also on Harris.
They would spill out into the small parking area outside the deck. Right?
Oh, okay. So I misunderstood. I thought you meant the one on 6th, but you mean the one towards Harris.
Right. The sidewalk would run east and west, right here parallel to the parking lot. So the cars coming out are going north, and they're intersecting with the sidewalk, which is right on the edge of the building. That's where the blind spots are.
Right. So when you said sidewalk, you mean the walkway, not the sidewalk that's closest to Harris.
That's correct. It's the walkway right adjacent to the parking deck, not the sidewalk.
Right. Okay. I'm glad we clarified that. So staff can look into that as number one. I believe that your second thing was the signage on LaGrange and Harris.
Yes, again, my opinion, others can decide, but my sensitive view is just the way the sign is configured right here. If you are in a vehicle westbound on Harris trying to make a right turn onto northbound LaGrange, as you look to see if it's clear, I believe that sign obstructs your potential view.
I'm sure the right department will look at that and make sure that is in a safe or safest possible place. And I know that our police chief runs different TED events, which are targeted enforcement. And I'm sure that the downtown area will be coming up again for a targeted enforcement. So what I would recommend is, if you don't hear from us in the next, give us, a few meetings to have that looked at, and we can address it publicly. We can also, after the meeting, feel free to, if you give me your number or email me, I can tell you this is how we followed up. But you're always welcome to come back and say, hey, I'm not sure if I heard where you're at, and we can maybe address it better then.
I greatly appreciate that. Thanks for the time. Last question, just wondering,
Sure.
is this, I came here tonight, but I know from the schedule that there's also a fire and police commissioners open meeting. And would it be more appropriate for me to revisit that topic at that meeting?
No,
Or
this
just
would be
here-
this is the appropriate meeting.
Okay.
That's for more hiring and different things. That would not be the time to bring it up.
Okay, very good.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, yeah, great. My name is Bessie Boyd, and I'm a longtime resident of LaGrange. And my main concern is I live on Sawyer, 234 Sawyer Avenue in LaGrange. The railroad tracks on Cosset is, I don't even know the words to say, very bumpy. I would invite trustee, police officers, and whomever to drive there. The railroad continuously fills holes with asphalt. I do understand that this is a main thorough for some of the heavier trucks. I don't know what the village can do other than maybe have conversation with a better forum and how to repair that. But for those of us who, like myself, use that each and every day, it's really a hit and miss on riding. And I see you shaking your heads, but I've been wanting to come and make that. I did speak with someone some time ago about it, but I wanted to make it public that we really need to have that repaired. So.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. It's my understanding it's the Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad, that intersection is due for reconstruction in the very near future. We've had some residents writing and actually wanting sidewalks expanded in that area. I think on the south side.
Yes.
And so there's some talk. I think Director Colby can maybe talk to when they expect those repairs.
The repairs are expected in September of this year.
Okay.
Indiana Harbor Belt. We're working with them to try to expand the improvement to see how we can coordinate sidewalk improvement as well on the south side.
Because there are currently big holes.
Correct. Yeah, and we've actually mentioned to them last year and every year, because we use that very frequently from Public Works perspective. So they're out there patching as best they can, but they're doing a full reconstruction this with a closure in the fall.
Okay, and one more question. The lot that that's there that's vacant now, is there going to be a business or something? It's been vacant for some time.
If Charity can address.
I mean, if you don't have that now.
Sure, no, that's fine. Yes, the prior building at 408 East Cosset was demolished. There was an approved set of plans for an industrial development there, but that property is currently on the market.
I'm sorry, it's what?
It's currently on the market for sale.
Oh, it's on the market. Okay, thank you much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd.
Hi.
Hi.
Bridget Murphy. I live in the 500 South block of Brainerd and have a similar safety concern to raise as the gentleman here. Between 47th and 55th, if you're familiar, I mean, it's residential primarily on the east side of the street. You've got some residences on the west side, and then you got the golf course for, 5-6 blocks there. I've raised the point previously to the village. I moved here in April 2020. I was so excited you guys put in a nice flashy sign so people could slow down. And in 3 years, I don't think it's making a difference, guys. I mean, it's like I have a 3-year-old. I walk the dog frequently. People aren't stopping. They blow right through it. Whether you're standing there, whether the lights are flashing, I don't know if we could do some sort of assessment to find out or if one's been done. When I first called about it, they referenced me to law enforcement. They said, you can call law enforcement. They can come sit and do a survey on it. I would love to see how many tickets are written on that street. I know that I drive the speed limit there primarily just to like encourage others to, and I get people who are literally passing me in the other lane flying. So I just would like to see, I suppose if we're taking proposals, a stop sign, something more effective, speed bump, something to actually slow people down. I mean,
And just to interrupt
Yeah,
you,
sorry.
Ms. Murphy, but you're talking about 47th Street?
47th, Brainerd, on Brainerd actually, not on 47th, because I know 47th is IDOT, but Brainerd, I believe when I called, they said that it was not IDOT.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, again, what we can do as far as adding stop signs to Brainerd. It's not an easy process, but we can evaluate that
Okay.
and figure out what's best.
Okay.
And if you email myself or Village Manager Knight, we can
Okay.
respond with, this is what we can or cannot
Okay.
do regarding
Even
that
just like
traffic.
a police presence, I mean, like.
Well, I
especially-
think Chief Warlock can probably address, we have had a couple of different TED on Brainerd, south of 47th, correct?
We have, but again, we can add it to our list to step up extra patrols over there.
Be great. It seems summertime also just like increase, golf
Sure.
course and all that. So I
Sure.
would appreciate that. I'll follow up with you, gentlemen.
Yeah, and again, we as a board understand safety, pedestrian safety, and just travel safety. And, really, although right around here, because of the parking deck, we may have more people from outside the village. A lot of the people that are driving around are residents. And we really need the residents to be careful for each other, and especially as the weather gets warmer. So we do appreciate you coming out, reminding people, and maybe even our friends in the patch will write about it, and we'll get it out even more.
Great.
All
right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no more public comments, I would ask if there's any trustee comments. Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, President Kukler. I wanted to bring up the blasting again, and I've got some cards to hand out if anybody doesn't have or can't remember the name of the long Facebook group, which is Lyons Township Quarry Information/Underground Blasting at McCook Quarry. It's a great place to get plugged in if you feel the blasts. We are organizing and getting together some ideas of how to proceed. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the allowance for some of these blasts. And I've said a bit about it before, but the basis for the allowable blast level tolerances at both Vulcan and Hanson, in fact, any surface mining quarry in the United States, comes from a study based on data from the 60s and newer studies from the 70s, published in 1980. It's based on data collected from mines, unspecified mines, I can't tell from the report, in homes and locations I can't tell, but it sounds like none were in Illinois. It's called Report of Investigation, or RI 8507. It was commissioned by the U.S. Bureau of Mines, which no longer exists. It's called, and the report is called Structure Response and Damage Produced by Ground Vibration from Surface Mine Blasting. In other words, this is the report that they used to gather data used to determine safe levels of vibrations from blasting. They did this study in 1974, or they started it, I should say, because the state of Pennsylvania was about to adopt its own stricter vibration standards due to, quote, citizen pressure and lawsuits involving both annoyance and alleged damage to residences. It's 2023. We're looking at more than 50 years that have passed since this particular study was begun. And I think it's time that the residents in this area and local governments ask for a new and objective and comprehensive study. One that studies the specific effects of subterranean mining that currently Hanson is doing. The basis for all these blast thresholds is based on surface mine study. This is surface mining only. So they are now in underground tunnels. This is a different form of blasting. And there's no basis for what they can do or not do based on subterranean. It doesn't exist. So I think it's time that it does. And we need to understand the area better, and so we'll be calling on them to look into that with us and hopefully meet with us more. It just would seem irresponsible not to do this. And so again, keep calling if you can. I don't think a lot of people are calling. Many have given up on that form of approach, but I think it's still important. And that's all I have for now, but I'm going to be saying something probably at every meeting going forward until we start to get some traction. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Trustee Gale.
Thank you, Mr. President. 3 quick things. One, just dovetailing off Trustee Augustine's comment on the blasting. If at some point we sort of gather enough information, I'm sure we'd, maybe from Jack or the president, some kind of letter, calling for this kind of study or further, further investigation, just so we can add a little bit of our, the imprint of the village board on, on further action to study it. That's one. Second of all, it's a question to Rick. Are we getting any good responses with respect to the railroad and the improvements that they're going to do and the desire for a sidewalk there?
Those chats are planned for later this week.
Okay.
We'll
I think if they're not going well, I think there's plenty of resources up here and people who have other contacts where we can, not just with the railroad, but governmental officials that can be reached out to. I believe our former president actually works for a railroad company. He knows some people, so so let us know. And then the third, Chief, just light these people up, write some tickets. I mean, I want to put that on the record. I mean, I don't know whether we've got a reputation as a place that writes too many tickets or tickets people, but I wouldn't mind that for a while if we've got pedestrian safety issues, because those 2 areas, like right out there and that on Brainerd. I mean, I've personally seen people almost get hit. I've had people tell me personally. So, just light some people up. I mean, I've got no problem with that.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. Seeing no other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:54.
So moved.
Thank you. Any seconds?
A
We'll
second.
sit here. A second? Terrific. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries at 8:55. Thank you very much, everyone.